Welcome to Money Map Studios, your guide to building smarter money habits, growing wealth, and unlocking financial freedom. Whether you're just starting your financial journey or looking for new ways to grow, you're in the right place. Here, we break down complex ideas into simple, practical steps you can use right away. From saving strategies to passive income to the latest money trends, we've got you covered. So, grab a notebook, hit that subscribe button, and let's map out your path to financial success together.
Credit cards can boost your credit score or bury you in debt. For beginners, it's one of those tools that feels both exciting and terrifying. Today, we're going to break it down step by step. No jargon, no boring lectures, just the real truth about how credit cards work, why people fall into traps, and how you can avoid paying those snaky fees banks hope you'll never notice.
And let's be honest, when you get your very first credit card, it feels like free money. Suddenly, you can buy things without worrying if you actually have the cash in your bank account. That swipe or tap feels powerful, but that's exactly where people mess up, because it's not free money. It's a loan. And unless you treat it like a tool instead of a toy, it can get ugly fast.
Understanding the basics. Let's start super simple. A credit card is basically the bank saying, hey, we'll spot you some money for now and you just pay us back later. That's it. But here's the catch. They make their profit when you don't pay it back in full. That's why the system is designed to encourage overspending.
Exactly. Think of it this way. When you use a debit card, the money comes straight out of your account immediately. With a credit card, the bank pays on your behalf. Then, at the end of the month, you get a bill. That bill is called your statement. You have a choice. Pay it all, pay part of it, or just pay the minimum due, which is usually a tiny percentage of what you owe.
And that's where most beginners fall into the trap. They see the minimum payment and think, oh, that's easy, I can handle that. But what they don't realize is if you only pay the minimum, the rest of your balance starts collecting interest. And interest on credit cards is brutal. We're talking 20%, 25%, sometimes even higher.
Let me put that in perspective. Imagine you bought a laptop for $1,000. You only pay the minimum, maybe $25, and carry the rest over. If your card charges 25% APR, that laptop could easily end up costing you $1,500 or even $2,000 by the time you finally pay it off. You just gave the bank hundreds of dollars for nothing. Money you could have kept if you paid in full.
Why paying in full is the golden rule. So rule number 1 for beginners, pay your balance in full whenever you can. If you can't, don't buy it. Seriously, treat your credit card like a debit card. Only spend what's already sitting in your checking account. That way, you never get surprised when the bill shows up.
I remember when I got my first card in college, I thought, oh, I'll just keep paying the minimum until I get my paycheck. Guess what? That paycheck never seemed enough. One dinner here, one online order there. Suddenly, I had a $600 balance and I was wondering why my payments weren't shrinking. That was my wake-up call.
And that's so common. People don't realize that interest compounds. It doesn't just hit you once. Every month you carry a balance, the bank charges interest on top of interest. That's how people end up with debt that feels impossible to escape.
Credit score connection. Here's the other side, though. Credit cards can actually be amazing if you use them right. They help you build something called a credit score. That's basically a trust score that tells lenders how reliable you are with money. Pay your card on time, keep your balance low, and over time your score goes up. That opens doors to bigger things like car loans, renting an apartment, even mortgages one day.
And here's the kicker. You don't need to carry a balance to build credit. A lot of people think, oh, I need to leave some debt on my card so my score goes up. Nope. That's a myth. Just using your card responsibly, making purchases, and then paying them off in full builds credit just fine. Banks love seeing that you can borrow and return money without issues.
The minimum payment trap in detail. Let's actually walk through the math because I think it helps. Say you owe $1,000 on a card with 20% interest. Your minimum payment might be like $30. If you only pay that $30 every month, guess how long it'll take to pay off?
Years, literal years, and you'll probably end up paying an extra $1,000 in interest along the way.
Exactly. But if you just pay $200 a month, you'd be debt-free in about 5 months, and you'd save hundreds in interest. That's why banks set the minimum so low. They know most people will stick to it, and that's how they make their money.
Spending psychology. Another thing beginners don't realize, credit cards make you spend more than you normally would. Psychologically, it doesn't hurt as much to swipe a card compared to handing over cash. Studies show people spend up to 20% more just because they're using plastic instead of cash.
Yeah, you don't see the money leaving your account immediately. You get that bill weeks later when you've already forgotten what you bought. And then you're like, wait, why is my statement $800? I don't even remember buying all this stuff.
Exactly. That's why discipline is everything. If you're not careful, a credit card becomes a trap disguised as convenience. Golden starter tips recap for beginners.
All right, let's recap the basics before we move on. Always pay your balance in full if possible. Never spend money you don't already have. Don't fall for the minimum payment trap. Remember, using a credit card builds your credit score, but only if you use it responsibly.
And the biggest thing, don't be scared of credit cards. They're not evil. They're just a tool, like a hammer. You can build a house or smash your thumb. It depends on how you use it.
Exactly. And in part 2, we're going to talk about the hidden fees most people don't even realize exist. Things like late fees, annual fees, cash advance fees, and how to avoid them. That's where banks make billions every year. But now at least, you know the ground rule.
So now that we've covered the basics, paying in full, minimum payments, and how to think of credit cards as a tool, let's move into the sneaky part. Fees. This is where credit card companies really make their money, aside from interest. And for beginners, fees are like invisible tripwires. You don't even see them until you've been hit.
Yeah, it's like walking into a room full of mousetraps in the dark. One wrong step and snap. You're paying $35 for something that could have been avoided. And the worst part is, most of these fees aren't even obvious when you sign up for the card. They're hidden in the fine print nobody reads. Annual fees. No-fee, straightforward cards that let you build credit without the baggage.
Late payment fees. Next up, late fees. This is one of the biggest moneymakers for banks. You miss your payment by even one day and boom, $30 or $40 slapped on your bill. Plus, they might increase your interest rate. That's called a penalty APR, and it can push your rate up to 29% or more.
That's crazy. Think about it. You're already struggling to make payments, and the bank's solution is to make it even harder by charging you extra? It's like punishing you for falling into the hole instead of helping you climb out. And people wonder why so many fall deeper in the debt.
Here's how to avoid it. Set up autopay. Even if you can't afford to autopay the full balance, at least autopay the minimum due. That way, you'll never miss the deadline. Then, whenever you can, log in and manually pay the rest. It's like an insurance policy against forgetfulness. Foreign transaction fees.
Another sneaky one is foreign transaction fees. Say you're traveling abroad, swiping your card at restaurants, shops, hotels. Each time, your bank might tack on a 3% fee. That doesn't sound like much, but if you spend $2,000 overseas, that's $60 gone for nothing.
And it's not just travel. Sometimes even online purchases from international websites count. Buy something on a foreign site and suddenly you've got extra charges. The fix? If you know you're going to travel or shop internationally, pick a card that specifically says no foreign transaction fees. Many beginner cards actually offer this, which is great. Cash advance fees.
Now, let's talk about the worst one, cash advances. This is when you use your credit card at an ATM to pull out cash. Sounds convenient, right? Wrong. First, you pay a cash advance fee, usually around 5% of whatever you withdraw. Then, interest starts building immediately. No grace period, no 30 days to pay it back. It's like the bank saying, "Thanks for the emergency, here's an even bigger emergency."
I know someone who did this in college. They needed cash for rent and thought, hey, I'll just take out $300 with my credit card. Boom, $15 fee upfront plus 25% interest starting that very day. By the time they paid it back, that $300 had cost them closer to $400. That's insane for what was supposed to be a quick fix. Balance transfer fees.
Here's another one. Balance transfer fees. Some cards let you transfer your debt from another card, often with a 0% intro APR for a year. Sounds great, right? But the catch is they charge 3 to 5% of the amount you transfer. So if you move $5,000 in debt, you might pay $250 just to make the switch.
Yeah, it can still be worth it if you're serious about paying off your balance within that zero interest window. But if you don't, the regular interest rate kicks back in, and now you've paid a fee for nothing. It's like kicking the can down the road instead of actually cleaning up the mess. Over-the-limit fees. Rare but real. Here's one that used to be super common but still exists. Over-the-limit fees. Basically, if you spend more than your credit limit, the bank could hit you with a fee. These days, you usually have to opt in for that, but some people still get surprised.
Which is crazy. Why would you opt in to be punished? But banks love when people don't read the fine print. That's why it's so important to know your credit limit and stay below it. Honestly, beginners should keep their spending well under 30% of their limit anyway. That helps your credit score and keeps you safe from these charges. The psychological side of fees. You know what's wild? Most of these fees exist not because the banks need them, but because they know human behavior. They know people procrastinate, forget deadlines, overspend, or panic and use cash advances. The fees are traps designed around human psychology.
Exactly. It's like casinos. The house always wins because they know people's habits. Credit card companies are the same. That's why the best defense isn't just knowing the fees exist, it's setting up systems to make sure you never trigger them in the first place.
So let's recap the most common fees you need to watch out for. Annual fees. Fine for advanced users chasing rewards, but skip them as a beginner. Late payment fees, avoid them with autopay. Foreign transaction fees, 3% each purchase abroad. Get a no foreign fee card if you travel. Cash advance fees, avoid completely, they're the worst. Balance transfer fees, only worth it if you're disciplined. Over-the-limit fees, avoid by tracking your spending.
Yeah, the big lesson is every single fee is avoidable if you know the rules. The banks are counting on you not knowing or not caring, but now that you do, you're already ahead of the game.
And that sets us up perfectly for part 3, where we go beyond just avoiding mistakes. We're going to talk about how to actually use credit cards smartly, rewards, building long-term credit, and strategies that let you benefit instead of the bank. That's where the fun begins. So far, we've talked about how credit cards can trap you with interest, and then we exposed all the sneaky fees. But now comes the good part, how to actually win with credit cards. Because when you play the game smart, these little pieces of plastic can actually work for you, not against you.
Exactly. Too many people stop at credit cards are dangerous, avoid them. But here's the truth. Avoiding them completely can actually hurt you in the long run. Why? Because your credit score depends on showing that you can borrow responsibly, and without a credit history, you'll struggle with bigger financial moves, like getting a car loan, renting an apartment, or even qualifying for a mortgage later on.
So let's start with the foundation, building credit. The single biggest factor in your credit score is paying on time, every time. That alone makes up about 35% of your score. So step 1 is simple, never miss a payment. Set up autopay, set reminders, tattoo the due date on your arm, whatever it takes.
Hopefully not the tattoo, but yeah, it's that important. Then there's credit utilization. That's just a fancy way of saying don't max out your card. If you've got a $1,000 limit, try to stay under $300 most of the time. That sweet spot shows lenders you're responsible without stretching yourself thin.
And here's the good news. You don't need to carry debt to build credit. That's a huge myth. Just use the card for normal expenses like groceries, gas, maybe your phone bill, then pay it off in full. Over time, your credit history builds up and your score climbs without ever paying interest.
Now let's talk about the part that makes people excited. Rewards. Credit cards can give you cash back, travel points, airline miles. It's like free money for stuff you were already going to buy.
Yeah, imagine getting 2% back on every purchase. Spend $1,000 a month and that's $20 back. Doesn't sound like much, but over a year, that's $240. Basically free groceries or a weekend getaway just for using your card instead of cash.
And it gets better with travel cards. I know people who fly for free every year just by racking up points on daily spending. But here's the catch. Rewards only work if you never pay interest, because the moment you start carrying a balance, the bank wipes out all those perks with interest charges.
Exactly. If you earn $200 in rewards but pay $300 in interest, you're actually losing money. That's why rewards should be seen as a bonus, not a reason to overspend.
Strategic card choices. Beginners often ask, which card should I start with? My advice, start with a simple no annual fee cashback card, something that earns 1.5 or 2% back on everything. No complicated categories, no gimmicks, just straightforward rewards while you build your habits.
Yeah, don't get sucked into fancy travel cards right away. Those usually have high annual fees and require you to spend thousands just to break even. Once you've had your first card for a year or two and your credit improves, then you can think about adding a rewards or travel card that matches your lifestyle.
And keep old cards open if you can. The length of your credit history matters. Canceling your oldest card can actually hurt your score. So unless it has a crazy fee, just keep it active with small purchases once in a while.
Avoiding lifestyle inflation. Here's a danger we need to talk about. Lifestyle inflation. When people get higher credit limits, they start spending more. Oh, I've got $5,000 of available credit now. I can buy that new TV. But just because the bank gives you a higher limit doesn't mean you should spend it.
Right. Banks increased your limit because they want you to get comfortable spending more, hoping you'll slip up and carry a balance. Don't fall for it. Treat your limit as a ceiling you'll never touch, not a target to hit.
Using cards for protection. One benefit a lot of people don't talk about is purchase protection. Credit cards often give you extra coverage on things you buy, like extended warranties, fraud protection, and chargeback rights. If your card is stolen, you're usually not liable for fraudulent charges. If you pay with a debit card, that money might be gone for weeks before the bank sorts it out. That's huge. I once had a flight canceled, and the airline wouldn't refund me. I called my credit card company, filed a dispute, and they got my money back within days. If I'd paid cash or debit, I probably would have lost it.
Smart habits for long-term wins.
So let's put all this together into a set of smart habits for beginners. Pay your bill in full every month. Keep your utilization under 30%, lower if possible. Start with a no-fee card, then upgrade later. Use rewards as a bonus, not an excuse to overspend. Keep your oldest card open to build credit history. Use autopay to avoid ever missing a due date. Treat increases in your credit limit as extra safety, not extra spending money.
And don't forget, check your statements every month. Not just the total, but line by line. Fraudulent charges happen all the time, and the sooner you catch them, the easier they are to fix. Plus, reviewing your spending keeps you honest about your habits.
Future benefits of smart credit use.
Here's the best part. All this discipline pays off later. A strong credit score means lower interest rates on car loans, mortgages, even insurance. That could save you tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Literally tens of thousands, just for paying bills on time and not overspending.
Yeah, imagine two people buying the same $200,000 house. One has excellent credit and gets a 5% interest rate. The other has poor credit and gets 7%. That small difference means paying over $60,000 more in interest across the life of the loan, all because of how they handled their credit cards.
So, let's put all this together into a set of smart habits for beginners.
To wrap it all up, credit cards are like fire. Used correctly, they give you light, warmth, and power. Used recklessly, they'll burn your whole house down. The choice is yours.
If you're just starting out, remember, pay in full, avoid the traps, and use rewards as a bonus. Build those habits now, and you'll set yourself up for decades of financial success. The banks want you to be careless. Don't give them the satisfaction.
Exactly. You control the card doesn't control you.
Thanks for watching Money Map Studios. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss practical tips to grow and protect your money. And remember, this content is for education only, not financial advice. Always do your own research and consult a professional before making decisions. Until next time, keep mapping your money and building your future.